imagine this. In the dead of night, January 3rd, 2026, the world wakes up to absolutely stunning news. A surprise U.S. military raid goes down in Caracas, and it ends with the capture of Venezuela's de facto leader, Nicolás Maduro. Now, when we say de facto, it just means he was the one holding power, even though a lot of countries didn't see his government as legitimate. This was way more than just an arrest, though. This was a move that sent shockwaves across the entire globe. So let's break down exactly how it happened and what it all means. And where was the U.S. president while all this was unfolding? In a makeshift situation room at his Mar-a-Lago club. President Donald Trump was monitoring the whole high-stakes mission in real time. And later, he described the scene with that pretty surreal quote, saying it was just like watching television. It really highlights just how detached and screen-based modern warfare can be. Okay, so how in the world does a team of U.S. Special Forces manage to capture the leader of a sovereign nation right in his own capital city? Well, this is the story of Operation Absolute Resolve. This thing moved with incredible speed. I mean, look at this timeline. After Trump gives that final go-ahead, U.S. military aircraft take off from 20 different bases. By 2 a.m., Delta Force is on the ground at Maduro's compound. Just a few hours later, he and his wife are in U.S. custody on a Navy ship, and by that very same evening, they're on U.S. soil in New York. Just unbelievably fast. But an operation this precise doesn't just happen out of the blue. It was only possible because of months and months of covert work. Turns out, a secret CIA team was actually operating inside Venezuela, learning Maduro's patterns, his locations, even what he was eating. And here's the crucial part. They were getting help from a source high up inside the Venezuelan government. That source provided the exact intelligence they needed to pinpoint his location on the night of the raid. So that really covers the what of the operation. But the bigger question, of course, is why? Why did this happen? Well, the justification for a move this bold wasn't just political. It was actually rooted in a massive federal indictment against Maduro himself. And the indictment really centers around this group known as the Cartel of the Suns. Now, this isn't a cartel in the traditional sense, like you might be thinking. It's really a label for a whole network of high-ranking Venezuelan military and government officials who were allegedly using their power to run a huge drug trafficking operation. And the name? It comes from those gold sun insignias that Venezuelan generals wear on their uniform. And when you look at the indictment, it paints this picture of a massive conspiracy. It doesn't just name Maduro. It goes after his entire inner circle, including his wife, Celia Flores, his son, Nicolás Ernesto Maduro Guerra, and other top officials like Diosdado Cabello Rondon. The allegations basically suggest that a criminal enterprise reached the very top of the Venezuelan state. The specific charges that were unsealed in New York, they are really severe. Maduro, his wife, and the others are facing 4 main federal counts. We're talking conspiring to commit narco-terrorism by working with groups like the FARC, conspiring to import cocaine into the U.S., and then 2 really serious weapons charges for having machine guns to protect their drug operations. To back these charges up, the indictment lists this just stunning series of overacts. It alleges a complete, systematic corruption of the state. I mean, from selling diplomatic passports to known traffickers, to using the presidential hangar at the main airport to ship tons of cocaine, and even using planes owned by the state oil company to move drugs for his son. It's pretty wild stuff. But this operation wasn't just about a legal case. The Trump administration immediately framed it as the cornerstone of a new and much broader vision for American foreign policy. Right after the raid, President Trump unveiled what he started calling the Monroe Doctrine. He very explicitly said that this new policy supersedes the old Monroe Doctrine, which has been around for nearly 200 years. That's a huge signal of a major shift in how the U.S. sees its role in the Western Hemisphere. So what's the difference, really? Well, the original Monroe Doctrine from way back when was basically a warning to Europe to stay out of the Americas. The Monroe Doctrine, on the other hand, is a direct assertion of American supremacy in the hemisphere. It's a shift from a defensive posture to one of, well, unchallenged dominance. As you can probably guess, this kind of bold action and the new doctrine that came with it got a deeply polarized reaction from the rest of the world. I mean, the international community was sharply divided. So on one side, you had key U.S. allies who were quick to voice their support. The U.K. Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, put it bluntly. Britain sheds no tears over the end of Maduro's regime. Pretty clear alignment with the U.S. position there. And French President Emmanuel Macron pretty much echoed that same sentiment. He framed the whole thing as a liberation from dictatorship and said the Venezuelan people can only rejoice. So that solidified a front of pretty clear approval among key Western allies. But the view from right there in the region was very, very different. Brazil's President Lula strongly condemned the operation. He didn't see it as an act of justice, but as a very serious affront to the sovereignty of Venezuela and a dangerous precedent for everyone. Global rivals, China and Russia, were even more forceful. The Chinese embassy in the U.S. called the raid a blatant use of force in a hegemonic act that violates international law, saying they were deeply shocked and strongly condemned it. And Russia? They framed the operation as nothing less than armed aggression. Moscow immediately called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council to deal with what it called an illegal U.S. intervention. So that set the stage for a major diplomatic clash. So this all leaves us with the central question, doesn't it? Was this a necessary act to bring a narco-terrorist to justice? Or was it a dangerous violation of international law that crossed a major line? The capture of Nicolás Maduro has fundamentally redrawn the map of American power and intervention, and its consequences, well, they're only just beginning to unfold.